We should play Ben's Empower song on our Lunch and Learns. What do you think about that, Sabrina?
I think that's a great idea.
Hey, welcome everyone.
Tell Sabrina to go live. Yeah, just play it.
Yeah. I've got empower. Afternoon, everyone. Hey, great. We got a good sized team streaming in. As always, everyone, we'll give everyone a few minutes here, but you can either use raise hand, ask your question in the chat, or ask your question in the Q&A section, and we will go through and answer as we can. My name is Will, and I am your humble moderator today. Please feel free to ask away, guys, if you have any questions. All right, Chris has a question, which is any advice for loading 9,000 records from a file? This is a CSV or some other character separated type file?
CSV or potentially a Excel spreadsheet.
Okay. Yes, the first piece of advice is to use our most performant like CSV import step. Let me give myself a space here so we can start talking about it. And that step is our import Excel CSV step. So what normally happens is people will start, I think this is 2 words. They will start with our for each Excel CSV step. And eventually that will get slow and they will move to our import Excel CSV step, which is import Excel or CSV. There's a lot of options here. If I look under, no, it's not under file management. Integration still? Integration, nope. Okay, where are you at? Flow management, file management. Is it under data? Okay, it's under data now in 7. Excel CSV. There are a bunch of options here, which allow more or less very sort of dynamic control over the actual columns that you're specifying. This step is one of my favorite steps in the toolbox. What you do is you create a data type. I'll just say it's account. And then you specify the number of columns. And then what you do is you go map in. You say, okay, column 1 is going to be the email address. And then column 2 is going to be account ID, whatever the object. And of course, you can just build a flow structure of some sort if you just need a mapping object. But this step converts the CSV to an object list. So you can see if I look under done imported data, under imported data comes out a list of accounts. And this step is blazingly fast in the conversion of the CSV row to object mapping, much faster than you would do with our for each Excel CSV. So this step is much easier to get started with And if it's small data and speed is the question, then for each Excel CSV is great, since it takes in a file and gives you this. You can see next row here, it gives you the looping behavior that we are often asked, that we're looking for here. So I could see something like this. Let's assume this placeholder step is the actual is my logic and my flow. And within import Excel CSV, I do need to pair this up on the done path. I'm gonna ignore these other outcomes here just to clean this up a bit. I need to pair this up with a for each step. So slightly more steps, but much more efficient from a import efficiency, as well as you can set the character type, which you can't do on for each Excel CSV. So this can handle tab or other types of character splits. And you get the option to do these. They have these outcome paths for particular types of conditions. On any of these steps, I always recommend doing auto select instead of CSV. And then you can start on row and specify a particular index of the sheet to work on. But you define an object, then you map columns to object properties, and then you get a object list out, and then you just deal with it like a normal object list in your flow. And so this is probably the fastest way for us to import an Excel or CSV.
And so your placeholder step is apt to be something like create object, like, create entity.
Sure.
If what we're doing is actually just doing a blind import of whatever it is. Or potentially I could do a quick fetch entity to ask, does this exist? And if the answer is no, then create it.
Yeah, if you're dealing with thousands of rows, it still might be a bit slow to do it as individual rights. So you might want to build up a list and then use one of either our batch steps. So you can batch insert an entity, or you might want to build up a list and then pass that list into a batch insert step, so that you're not doing individual rights. I just set this to account. What I could do is declare a list here. No, is it just create data now? Yeah, I could declare a list of accounts. Let's just see here. So this is, accounts to import. Is list. And then what I could do here is actually add item, or maybe pair it up with what you're referring to here, which is like a fetch entity step, where, let me get rid of my placeholder step. I could say fetch, if there's no result, add it to the list. If there is a result, I could skip it, something like that, right? Just sort of doing some make-believe logic here. Build up my list here, and then pass that whole list. Oh, I did these wrong. Sorry, let me change this. Not done. So this is done here and next here. So create an empty list, import my CSV for each my list coming out of my import Excel CSV step. Check to see if the object I'm importing on that row exists. If it does, do nothing, or possibly do an update statement here. Whereas if it doesn't exist, add it to a list and then pass that list into my batch insert step here. So I'm only doing one write and not 9,000 writes. And that'll be a more performant data import pattern.
And so that singular write then is another reason why, for example, this is going to beat the pants off of, say, a run flow for list operation.
Yeah, you don't want to use RunFlow for list for like doing parallel writes.
Okay.
I wouldn't use it for doing parallel writing. I would do it for using parallel, like, let's assume.
Well, I'm sort of wondering if that section, you've got the for each loop, which is probably just fine actually. But I mean, potentially that could have been a RunFlow for list step.
Sure.
And then just go to a batch insert. But
yes, that's true. Yeah, you could do that.
Having said that, though, I'm not I'm not entirely sure that at the scale of 8,000 that the run flow for list is really necessary.
Yeah,
as
I
opposed-
wouldn't think so.
compared to a loop.
Yeah, I mean, in like the only reason it would be is if for some reason this logic was quite burdensome from a performance standpoint. Whatever this logic is, we have a simple check, but imagine if we have API calls or other things that are slower that we need to do in parallel, then yes, taking these two and putting them in a run flow for list might make sense. And then, in fact, it would actually be all three of these because you don't need to, the run flow for list step will build up the output list for you automatically.
Right.
And then passing that list into a batch insert. I wouldn't do the writes inside of the parallel, inside of the run flow for list, but I would, or you could run the logic for each item inside of a parallel thread. Likely something like this is quite fast, and I agree that run flow for list might be overkill.
Although having said that, I realize you're doing a fetch entity, and what we are doing is in fact a REST API call. So I'm wagering that we're going to want to do that way.
Yeah, so let's talk about it in detail for those of us that aren't familiar with it. So what Chris is asking about is a step here called run flows for list batch processing. And if we were to take this design, let's do this. Let's create a group here. We will group these, and then we will copy and paste these, right? Copy, paste. There we go. And what I'm going to do here is replace these three steps. Oops, I didn't want to do that. Come on. Undo. All right, never mind. Paste. I will bring these, I will ungroup them. I will grab these three steps and delete it. And I will make a more streamlined flow here. Show you the magic of run flow for list when we need to do. So this is probably something what you're imagining in your mind's eye right now, Chris.
Right.
So input type would be account. Let's just say account, and the output type is account. So this is a pretty fancy step in decisions. And what it has is it has a secret, a hidden flow inside of it. And you can leverage these run behavior options. And probably the most commonly used is async and wait. And you'll notice you get thread count here. And I can say, I want to run 10 of these in parallel under a particular queue name. And let's assume we have 9,000 rows. That 9,000 items gets passed into this step, and then it spawns 10 at a time. And it runs 10 in parallel on backend threads. And what it does is it takes an account in and an account out, or whatever we specify here. And then that's unfortunate. It shows you both. And then there's a special flow here that we can do this example, our fetch entities in. And we could say, I'll just put placeholder steps, but we could have results go somewhere. Say, results does nothing, no results, does something, and then goes out. And then this flow will be run in a parallel processing type behavior by the backend. Whereas in our for each, it will not be. It'll be run one item at a time. Go ahead.
Well, and I think one of the tricks there would be that on a no result thing, you want to return a null versus on the switch. On no result, you want to return your input, but on a no result, you want to return null, so that you can have you ask. So right there, I'm looking at the remove nulls results. Boolean input.
Where is it at? I'm missing it.
It's right there in red.
Oh yeah. So I can specify if I want to ignore the nulls. Yep.
Yeah. So then you can have your hidden flow. Basically make the ruling: are you in or out by sending back a null or the input?
Yep.
And by then checking that yes, I do want to remove my nulls. That will whittle you down to the things you actually want to insert.
Exactly. Yep. That's a completely valid design, and should be very performant. The one thing, Matt, to pay attention to is you have to tune your thread count based on what the hardware spec of your server is, as well as what the other work it's doing. You ask for too many, you'll slow things down. There's a
Mhm.
sweet spot between asking for too little and then asking for too many.
Yeah, and it's surprising that it's smaller than you think.
Absolutely.
I would say as a rule of thumb, actually 4 is a good place to start, then see if you want to try going above that.
Yep. Agreed. No, great question. Thanks, Chris.
Sure.
So I think given the details here, if you're doing an API call, if this API call takes anything, if this is going to stack up. So possibly putting those API calls to be made in parallel makes a lot of sense, so that you're not waiting 200 to 500 milliseconds, whatever that call length is, for each record. So I would think that RunFlow for list makes a lot of sense in that example.
Yeah, although, I mean, if we're just doing a fetch entities check, I don't think I'd reach for a RunFlow for list either.
No, I would not. No, probably not, because this should be hitting the cache and be quite performant. So anyone in the webinar today have any questions about this? This is more of an advanced topic. Do we have, let's see what, well, while I ask that question, let's see what we have for RunFlow for list. RunFlow for list step, multi-threading, okay, multi-threading flow design, parallel processing and big data under flows. Ooh, nice. This document will cover the setup of true multi-threading. Pay attention, guys. Documentation team is using the word true here. Well, this could be improved. Whoever doc person is many. Yeah, this doc has not nearly enough content. Multi-threading flow design, batch insert, technical multi-threading overview, multi-threading, multi-processing, parallel processing. This document defines and describes the following concepts relative to decisions. Interesting. Ooh, oh, this is an interesting little 4-box. Merge step, branch for each. I need to send this over to Mr. Brassington. Anyone have any questions about this? I don't think so. Okay, we've got some information here. Definitely could use some additional content here to help you guys out. But any other questions you have, we'll happy to answer. All right, Murray, you had a question that looks like Jared answered in the chat. You said LexisNexis customer. I do know that we've had some customers in the loan servicing space connect to LexisNexis, the details of which I don't recall. I don't know if that required custom code or if they have a REST API that we were calling. I can't recall. I'm pretty sure it was LexisNexis. Okay, what other questions do we have from the team or from the audience? Please ask away. There's nothing, no question too simple. Chris has been around for a while, so he's, of course, asking about more complicated scenarios. But if you have a simple question, please ask it. Is there a PDF editing step that I'm missing? This would be to allow users to directly edit a PDF that has been built with variable inputs using decision steps. You can't actually edit the PDF. I mean, there's some things you can do in terms of like adding images. Let's see what we have. Data.
Isn't there like a set field that you can use? Will?
Yeah. I don't think that's what she's asking, but yeah. What am I
So
missing?
this is connected to my ongoing problem of people copying and pasting things out of the PDF in the document viewer. Well, now they want to be able to edit the entire form.
They want to be edit. What do you mean edit the entire, like even the labels and things?
Not the labels, the content. So I've used set PDF fields to pre-populate certain things. So you remember it has a bank name, a bank address, so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
And they want to be able to change a multitude of those instead of just that one thing that we've got where they can change the bank address. I think I'm going to have to create them a form where they can make the changes if they want to in the form, save the changes, and then display the PDF.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, almost.
But I want to know if there's a
certainly.
better way.
I don't think, let me fix my view here. I don't think that there is a better way. Let me make a note for myself here really quickly. I mean, the simplest idea would be to make everything that they need editable. If we create a new PDF, all of the fields that they want to be able to edit would need to be PDF form fields on that PDF. And then you would build the flow to recognize and be able to replace those PDF form fields. I mean, you can build up completely custom PDF files using HTML, but I don't think that's what you're asking. I mean, we did a review, we did a demonstration of this on last week, I think, for someone who was asking about being able to dynamically create PDFs. If you can write the HTML, if you can figure out if you can write HTML and then pass that HTML to like this HTML PDF step, it'll render that HTML into a PDF. So you could have a completely dynamic PDF creation process.
No, and at this point, I don't even know what they would want to be able to change. But it's on that PDF that you've been looking at for wires where it's got like instructions and
Right.
things on it. And for some reason, they believe they need to suddenly edit some of those fields.
Okay.
I'm not really sure why or which ones yet.
Yeah, what we've seen before is like a form view. And what we could imagine is like a document viewer on the left-hand side, and then like the fields on the right-hand side. Let's see. Let's just see if we can whip one together really quick so we can have something to look at. So I'm going to edit this grid and give me one row. And then here, I'll put a document viewer. And then I'll find a grid. And then add some rows. Yeah, so let's do 30, 30, 30, 30, 30, 1 star. Label, text box, which would be text 1. Of course, you need a button. Text 2. Text 3. Document viewer would be called doc. And let's just see here. I don't know, I can get this fully working, but let's see, PDF editor example.
I like what you're doing, except that I already know that they're going to copy and paste stuff out of the document viewer, therefore looping back to the existing problem we have now. They're not going to retype it. They're going to copy it over and edit it.
Well, we should be able to like read from the PDF, but lock the PDF itself and then pass those into the form. So like we like pre-populate the fields. That's what I'm thinking here. So I don't, let me see, PDF. Form field example. Can I find one online here? PDF form example. Ellen knows what this is. Well, all right. So let's see here. Download. Corrupt my system. And let's search for PDF. So we'll get PDF form fields. And then we will, that'll give us the form fields. We'll get fields, get text from PDF. Show that here. And let me, all right, so here's going to be my current PDF, which is file data. Yep, save this and get PDF form fields. I will pass in my template I just downloaded off the internet. There's my fields. I will pass in the actual file from my start step. Oh, good grief. Which is current PDF. Get text from PDF. I will also pass in from my start step. That comes up as a string. PDF form fields gives me outputs. Does it actually give me the text outputs itself? Jared, do you know? Or Brian, do you know?
I do not. I haven't experienced this step.
I'm not that familiar with it. Let's see. Pick our form, which is recent form 1. And we pass our doc into our doc viewer, which would be current PDF. Ooh, that's not right. Let me change the type on that document viewer to be not document. That should throw a validation. I want a QA person on here, I think. File data. Okay, so I can pass in current PDF. And then let's see what I get here. If I look at text 1, I'll select this and I'll say the given name text box. Now I need to edit this. So this is hello world. Sorry, I'm doing something on my other screen to try to make sure I can get this to work right. With changes, ooh, fancy. And with changes. So if I run this and I bring over my with changes, save a unit test and run. Okay, cool. So let's talk through what we got here and just see if so what I have is I created there's a PDF, which I have downloaded off the internet here. And I put in hello world for the text in the given name field.
Okay.
And then I'm showing the document here on right now, this is editable, but we should be able to lock this and make it not editable. And then what I'm doing is using get PDF form fields, it's giving me the text, which was in the given name. So you could imagine I have a decisions designed form on the right-hand side and the document shown on the left-hand side with all of the values pre-populated. And then what I should be able to do is I can figure this out here in a second, but I could then say, no, this is actually something and submit and then get that to take that value in. What do you think about this approach in general?
I like it, especially if I can lock down the PDF so they can't change it directly on the form.
Yeah, so there is a lock or make PDF document read only. Let's try that. I'm going to pass the PDF document is going to be, oh man, this is contents. And then make PDF document read only is what I'll pass into here. This output file data. All right, let's just do this. I'm going to change current PDF byte array contents. So that should make it read only, I think. Either way, definitely with CSS, we can do this. Then set PDF form field is we'll pass our example file in again. That'll give us these. And what we can do is given name text box, we will take from this txt1 is just the name of the text box I gave it.
Right.
PDF file here will be current PDF. And I'm just going to use this same form. And I'm going to pass it in set PDF form field. So this is output. In this case, this outputs PDF file. Let me change this to PDF file. All right, if I'm right, it's all right. Are those things gonna tell me those aren't gonna blow up if they're null? We'll find out. Run my flow. Hello world. ASDF. Okay, it didn't take my change. Input output data. Given name is ASDF, PDF file. Let me see what I missed here. I pass in current PDF. That's right. I output PDF file. I pass in PDF file. Oh, I need to then do the same thing, get text from PDF. Copy, paste. No, I don't. That's actually not what I want at all. Let me copy this. Diagram's getting ugly here. Let's clean this up a bit. Okay, so get PDF form fields, we're taking PDF file. And then that should output the same thing. Given name text box is my select from flow. All right, this will work, I think. Hello world, ASDF, AA, ASDF. Now, and now because I've locked it, I can't click into this at all.
Perfect. Yes,
Right.
that will do exactly what I want. Thank you.
So you, of course, the form and the PDF are completely delinked, right? So any change to the form requires a change to the form from a maintenance perspective. But this gets them, your users, out of touching the form directly,
Yes.
and then just dealing with this information on the right hand side. We've had some people do some very clever things like this, where yeah, some very clever designs using this type of form design pattern here.
Okay. Thank you. Glad I asked.
Yeah, no, thanks for that question. Right, that was good. That was nice. One to build. Getting some help here in the chat. Thanks, guys. It did change the PDF display. It took the change just to read the new form. Yep. Thanks for that. Okay, what other questions do we have? Nothing else? If you guys are typing out a message, please use the raise hand feature so we can I can know. Otherwise, I think we'll call it an early day since we've answered everything for today. Assuming there's nothing, no questions occurring to us right now. Okay. All right, well, if that's everything, appreciate the questions today. Please, and again, as always, please let everyone else that you guys know that works in decisions that we're doing these. We are slowly but surely growing a an active community here, but any help is appreciated. I hope y'all get as much enjoyment out of these sessions as I do. And I think it's a great way to learn. So thanks everyone. Have a great afternoon. And Sabrina, who is in tomorrow?
Tomorrow is, you always calling me when I'm not ready. Take a look. It'll be Josh Lax.
And who's on Thursday?
Thursday, Jessica Potter.
All right, wonderful. So we got some solid people lined up for the rest of the week. But thanks everyone and have a great afternoon.